Supporting is an integral part of Dota 2, and learning the basics and beyond can help you tremendously in not just supporting, but also at playing the game as a whole. Position 4 and 5 are in a very comfortable spot on the power curve right now, and playing a good support in the current rank environment will give you a very good shot at winning games. So let's take a look at 5 tips to make use of in order to win games more consistently. If you like videos such as this, I'd hugely appreciate a thumbs up and a follow. I release educational content on a weekly basis, and your interest and support is what makes this possible. This one might come as a bit of a surprise being on the list, but make no mistake. One of the most common mistakes that occur from someone playing position 4 or 5 is that they're simply not harassing and playing offensively enough. The initial laning stage is a very important one in the current patch of 7.34, and being able to come out on the winning side of it often gives you the ability to run away with the game entirely in a ranked pop game. By applying harassment in a proper manner and not being afraid of trading blows with the enemy, you're forcing them to make use of their tangos in order to keep themselves at high health to ensure that they're not dying. Constant pressure like this is truly what wins lane right now more than anything, and it's equally why a lot of top tier supports are the heroes that are able to dish out a ludicrous amount of damage in the early game. Using your right clicks correctly, applying damage consistently with your spells, and generally trying to sneak hits in on the enemy core and support as you're playing are all gonna add up to a greater chance of winning the lane. Make sure to apply aggression such as this, even if you are a melee hero. You have to find a way to establish lane control, and if you never condition the enemy to be afraid of you, or your lane is unable to, they have absolutely zero reason to be afraid of you as a player during the laning stage. Pulling is another technique that is mandatory in the arsenal of the support player. While the previous tip clearly advocated the merits of playing aggressive, harassing and applying damage to the enemy, sometimes this isn't possible. One of the ways to make it possible though, is by using the idea of pulling to your advantage. When the lane is closer to the enemy tower than yours, your opponent is able to retreat to safety much easier than you are, making it very hard to score a kill on him. By pulling creeps, you disrupt the original creep flow of the lane, letting it land closer to your tower, which is exactly what you want, since it allows you more room to harass the enemy, and giving you an easier time to escape under your tower when necessary. Furthermore, a very common scenario from pulling is that the support opposite of you will attempt to disrupt it. This is one of the best possible times to deal a serious blow to his health or even score a kill on him. It depends quite a bit on the hero you're playing, and that of the enemy support of course. Not to mention whether or not your lane partner in question will assist you with bringing him down, but you're forcing the enemy support to go well out of their way to stop you, which is a huge plus on top of the initial pull. Something that has changed massively within Dota 2 coming into 2023 is that of early game timings. Lotus spawn, rune spawn, wisdom rune spawn, river rune. All of these are on a set timer, and while it might be hard to remember all of them, being able to memorize them and play around them will seriously elevate your game plan as a whole. Being able to make the most out of Lotus as it spawns at 3 and 6 minutes respectively is one of the easiest chances leading to kills for you as a position 4 or 5 for an example. If the enemy contests you at Lotus, this is a prime opportunity to make the most of your prior harassment and put the finishing blow on either their core or support. If they don't contest you and you grab Lotus for free, this is perfect. They're now handing over precious health and mana to you, rewarding you for having set the pace of the lane. Likewise, these other timings all fall into the same category. If you're playing actively in lane, have your wits about you and very keenly look at the time, so that you're able to go for all of these timing based spawns when the need arises. So if you're not already doing it, try and train yourself to play around them as part of your initial 10-minute game plan. Another change that occurred within Dota 2 recently is that of consumables as a whole being somewhat overhauled. Before, you could buy tangos, mana pots, etc. en masse. This is no longer the case. This is also precisely one of the reasons why playing in an aggro manner and harassing enemies is as powerful as it is. There's now a hard limit on how many tangos and health pots can be purchased. Knowing and playing around this concept, we know now it's impossible for the enemy to constantly stay at full health and mana, because the resources they have available to do so are in limited supply. One of the added consumables also happens to be that of Blood Grenade, an extremely potent one-use item to slow and slightly damage enemies, setting them up for an easy kill. While it's very common for people to buy this early in order to score kills, most supports often forego buying it later entirely, which is a huge mistake entirely given that it, too, is in limited supply. And the percentage movement speed reduction is insanely good coming into mid-game too. As a position 4 or 5, you'll very often find yourself in possession of more available item slots, courtesy of not farming as much as a core role. Due to this, you're able to much easier slot in consumables such as Dust of Appearance and Blood Grenade. When you play support, always catch yourself coming into mid-game and look at what your inventory looks like. If there's even one slot that's not being occupied by something, be it a raindrop, dust, luck grenade, or even an iron branch, start conditioning yourself to fill out your inventory in order to reap more benefits. Last on our list is a very general but powerful recommendation, that of communication. It's very common for Dota 2 players to expect people to just do the right thing, and while that might appear obvious to you as a player, it might not to that of your ally. This is especially important because we're not playing the mid lane here, we're playing either off lane or safe lane, and like it or not, it's a team effort that will result in the lane going well or poorly. To that end, I highly recommend establishing a good communication with the core player you find yourself on lane with. Let him know in advance before you intend to pull. Let him know if you're going to go for Lotus. Ask for his assistance if you're pulling and the enemy support is trying to stop you. In general, don't be afraid to call for his aid, or make occasional shot calls on lane as a whole, such as when to go for a kill or when to pull back. The reason why people in parties are often scarier in lane is because they're often sitting in a Discord voice chat, talking actively with one another as they're playing the lane, which is something that's often absent if you play solo ranked. But it doesn't have to be this way. Trying to establish a bond with your lane partner will see you have a much greater success as a support, even if it's only for one match. There are times where you're going to play with an unruly or downright rude core that is simply nasty towards you or doesn't care what you have to say, or even plays with communication entirely turned off. This should not dissuade you from at least trying to establish an initial line of communication in every game. Find out what your partner is like, whether you can talk and plan together with him, and from there, you'll know whether or not communication can be used as a tool to boost your chances of success or not. Supporting is actually seriously fun right now. There's just so much to do in the current environment of Dota 2, especially within the first 10 minutes of the game, where support players have such a huge avenue of impact, from ganking through the twin gates to aiding with power runes at 6 minutes. There's such a large amount of plays that can be currently pulled off in most matches you'll find yourself in. I highly encourage everyone that wants to get better at Dota as a whole to not just learn to play support at a basic level, but to refine it and understand it in general. Doing so will greatly increase your understanding of the game, which will net you a much greater chance of winning future games in Dota 2 in the long term.